The organization is preparing everyone else, fans, media, and even the locker room, for Sanders to take over. And according to team insiders, this is all coming from the top. Jimmy Haslam isn't just hoping for a transition. He's engineering one, and Dillon Gabriel is the odd man out. What makes this shift so compelling and so volatile is that it's happening without open acknowledgement. The Browns are managing the optics, shaping commentary, and building a case for Sanders, even as Gabriel technically holds a job.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
It's a form of silent succession planning, driven by ownership and reinforced by analysts and insiders. Sanders is being set up to step in, not because Gabriel failed dramatically, but because the organization has quietly decided it's time. It's not about who's earned it. It's about who's next. The Cleveland Browns aren't just evaluating their quarterback room. They're reshaping it. And according to insider reports, that reshaping has a very specific name attached to it: Shedeur Sanders. This isn't about one practice. It's not about one preseason game. It's not even about raw talent alone. This is a strategic, layered, long-view plan to hand the future of the franchise to Sanders. And if the reports are accurate, it's not speculation, it's movement. Deliberate, top-down movement led by Jimmy Haslam himself. The leaks have started, but this isn't the usual chaos we've come to expect from quarterback drama in Cleveland. There's no public controversy, no screaming headlines from the team, no awkward press conferences where coaches dance around depth chart questions. It's quiet, but it's steady. It's subtle, but it's real. And if you follow the timeline and track the pattern, the message becomes undeniable. The Browns are grooming Shedeur Sanders to take over. What makes this even more compelling, and for some fans more frustrating, is that Dillon Gabriel is still technically the starter. He's still listed at QB1. He's still going through the motions. But that's just on paper. Inside the organization, the dynamics are shifting. Gabriel's grip on the job is loosening. And it's not because of one bad outing. It's because of a consistent, growing lack of confidence from the people in charge. It started small. Reports of concerns over Gabriel's ability to close out games. Comments from analysts noting how he fades in high-pressure moments. The kind of feedback that doesn't trigger a benching on its own, but does start to erode trust. Then came the silence. After the Browns' most recent loss, there was no strong public backing of Gabriel. No, he's our guy from leadership. Just space. And in that space, the Shedeur conversation started to grow. Sources now say the Browns have been actively working behind the scenes to reshape public perception around Sanders. That's not a small statement. That's a full organizational pivot. It's one thing to develop a rookie quarterback. It's another to start managing the narrative. And that's what's happening here. The Browns aren't just letting Shedeur grow into the job. They're preparing the world to see him as ready. The phrasing matters. Readiness is the key word, not potential, not upside. Readiness. It means he's being framed as capable right now, not someday down the line. The Browns are feeding the idea that if the situation demands it, Shedeur could step in and lead this team without chaos. And that idea, it's catching on. You got analysts like Rex Ryan already floating the possibility that Shedeur could replace Gabriel if things continue in this direction. That's not idle commentary. That's a temperature check. And when those kinds of takes start making it into national conversations, it's because someone inside the building wants them there. It's calculated. The team is laying groundwork, testing how fans and media respond to the concept of Sanders starting. And so far, the reaction has been more curious than critical. That's a green light. That's exactly what the Browns want. Because if this was a spontaneous quarterback controversy, the timing would be chaotic. But that's not what this is. This is controlled, orchestrated. You don't start evaluating new backup options, manipulating media tone, and praising a backup's leadership profile unless you're preparing for a handoff. It's not just about Gabriel struggling. It's about creating space for Shedeur to step in. And Gabriel has struggled, not in every snap, not in every game, but in the moments that matter. The late-game decisions, the stalled drives, the inability to spark a comeback. And when your starter can't deliver under pressure, it opens the door for questions. Right now, those questions are being asked louder than ever. Insiders suggest the Browns are already building the plan for transition, making sure when Shedeur does step in, it's not a scramble, but a rollout. That means managing expectations, supporting him with strong media framing, and setting him up with a solid system around him. That's not emergency quarterback planning. That's a franchise strategy. And this is where Haslam's influence looms large. This isn't just a coach falling in love with a rookie. This is the ownership-level leadership stepping in and saying, we're doing this differently. After years of quarterback instability, PR disasters, and rushed decisions, this plan reflects something else. Patience. Not in Shedeur's development, but in the rollout. They're not tossing him in for short-term hype. They're installing him for long-term credibility. That kind of rollout doesn't happen unless the entire building is aligned. Coaches, execs, PR, media handlers, all on the same page. Build the trust in Shedeur now. Create a runway. Clear the distractions. Shift the pressure off of him and onto the situation. Let the public warm up to the idea before the move happens. So when it does, it's not shocking. It's expected, welcomed even, and the more Gabriel struggles, the easier the switch becomes. That's the reality of his position now. He's not just playing football. He's buying time. Every incomplete pass, every loss, every awkward post-game answer chips away at what little grip he has left. But here's the risk. What if Gabriel turns around? What if he puts together a clean stretch of games? What if he leads a comeback? What if he wins over the locker room with results? That's the one scenario the Browns haven't fully accounted for. Because if Gabriel suddenly finds rhythm and confidence, it could disrupt the transition timeline. And make no mistake, the front office want a clean switch, not a controversy. That's why the pressure is on, not just for Gabriel, but for everyone. The media, the fans, the team itself. The plan only works if Gabriel continues to justify it. The moment he doesn't, the moment he starts proving people wrong, that's when the team faces real conflict. But as it stands now, that's not happening. Gabriel isn't imploding, but he's not elevating either. And in this league, being average at quarterback is a death sentence. Meanwhile, Shedeur continues to benefit from the narrative curve. Every week he doesn't play is another week his image remains untarnished. The Browns are keeping him in that sweet spot, developing, not doubted. The longer that lasts, the smoother his eventual debut will be. And that debut is coming. No one's saying it publicly, but the signs are all there. It's in the way the Browns talk about the future. The way Shedeur's name is framed in analyst segments. The way the team is evaluating backup options to cushion a QB transition. These are not moves made for fun. These are organizational signals. Shedeur Sanders is being positioned not just as a backup, but as the next franchise quarterback. And Dylan Gabriel? He's the setup for that transition. So now the question isn't if the Browns are going to make the change. It's when. The team is watching every snap, every press conference, every fan reaction. They're timing this for maximum control. When the switch comes, they want to own it, not defend it. And when it does, it will redefine the Browns' direction. They're not chasing immediate results. They're building something sustainable, something they can market, protect, and grow. And Shedeur Sanders is at the center of that plan. The end of the Gabriel era might not come with fireworks. It might not come with a meltdown or a headline-grabbing benching. It'll likely come with a quiet press release, a line in a press conference, a subtle change on the depth chart. But make no mistake, it's coming. And when it does, the Browns will act like it was always the plan. Because it was. Let us know where you stand on this shift. Is Shedeur Sanders the future Cleveland needs? Or is this another overhyped quarterback story the Browns will regret? Drop your take in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more breakdowns on the NFL's biggest power moves, team shakeups, and the real stories behind the headlines. Because if you think this Browns QB saga is wild now, just wait. The Browns aren't announcing anything. That's the strategy. They don't need to, because when a quarterback transition is managed right, you never have to say it out loud. You just tilt the spotlight, nudge the media tone, and let the starting job quietly change hands before anyone even notices the press release. And right now, that's exactly what's unfolding in Cleveland. This isn't a competition. It's not even a battle. Those words imply something fair, something undecided. What's happening between Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders? It's already decided, just not officially. Because if you believe the leaks and follow the pattern, then there's only one real conclusion here. Jimmy Haslam is preparing to hand over the Browns' offense to Shedeur. And Gabriel? He's in the worst seat in football. QB1 in title. QB3 in trust. Let's talk about how we got here. At first, the Browns' quarterback room looked like a developmental project. Gabriel as a starter, some insurance at backup, and Sanders raw, talented, and learning the system. That's how it was pitched, but it didn't stay that way. And it wasn't Gabriel's numbers that forced the shift. It was his presence, or lack thereof, in the most important moments. The Browns didn't need Gabriel to be elite. They needed him to be in control. But every week, that control kept slipping. Every stall drive, every missed opportunity, late in games. Every time the team needed him to put his foot on the gas, he hesitated. And at this level, that's enough. That's when the narrative began to change. Not suddenly, but piece by piece. A critical tweet here. An analyst comment on air. A post-game interview that lacked conviction. All of it began to build a new portrait. One where Gabriel wasn't necessarily the problem, but he also wasn't the solution. Meanwhile, the Browns began building something else. You started hearing more about Shedeur, not in a flashy, breakout star kind of way, in a curated, strategic, he's developing fast kind of way. Coaches were encouraged. Insiders were optimistic. The language shifted from prospect to potential starter, from project to plan. And now, that plan is surfacing. The organization is reportedly doing more than just preparing Sanders on the field. They're working to shift public perception. That's a major tell. When a team starts managing image, it means the internal belief is already locked in. They're not wondering if Shedeur will start. They're setting the stage to make sure when he does, it lands smoothly. Gabriel is part of that strategy too, though not in the way he wants to be. The Browns aren't benching him immediately. That would disrupt the story they're crafting. Instead, they're letting him play, while building Shedeur's platform underneath him. Quietly, consistently. So inevitably give them an opening, a bad game, a stalled half, another blown lead, they can make the switch without noise. Because by then, the fans will already expect it. That's the most brutal part of this for Gabriel. It's not just a performance issue. It's a perception issue. He's being outpaced by a storyline. Shedeur doesn't even need to take a snap to win this race. He just needs to keep being seen as the future. And right now, that perception is winning. You can see it in how analysts are talking. Rex Ryan suggesting a potential midseason shift. Local beat writers floating the what-if scenarios. The team's silence when Gabriel underperforms. It's all part of the same mechanism. They are phasing out the starter without calling it a demotion. Because here's the thing. When you want to build a franchise quarterback, it's not just about getting a guy ready. It's about preparing the environment. And the Browns are doing exactly that for Shedeur Sanders. This is about more than reps and tape. It's about optics, confidence, fan buy-in, team chemistry. You don't just give someone the keys. You make sure everyone's ready for it when you do. That's why this whole situation feels so measured. The Browns aren't rushing. They're not panicking. They're managing the messaging. And as for Gabriel, his margin for error is already gone. The leash is short. The patience is thinner. And the eyes of the organization are already elsewhere. Unless he delivers a complete turnaround. Something so undeniable that it disrupts the carefully laid plan. His time is effectively over. That doesn't mean the benching happens tomorrow. It might not even happen next week. But it will happen. Because once a team makes this kind of pivot behind closed doors, the public part is just a formality. You can already see the preparation. The team evaluating other backups. The soft PR tone around Shedeur. The growing silence around Gabriel's leadership. Every step is designed to make this transition feel seamless. No drama. No noise. Just Next man up. And Shadur is being positioned to step up into a completely different role than he was initially drafted for. He's not the experimental rookie anymore. He's not being stashed on the depth chart just in case. He's the chosen successor. And when the Browns give him the job, they want it to feel like a progression, not a panic. That's how you build longevity. That's how you build around a quarterback. You don't toss him in mid-meltdown and hope for magic. You build the narrative first. You shape the perception. You build faith before the decision is even made. And in Cleveland, that faith is already shifting. Jimmy Haslam, who's been deeply involved in the Browns' quarterback decisions before, appears to be steering this one with even more control. This is not about short-term results. It's not about a couple of good throws in practice. It's about building the next chapter of this franchise, one with a quarterback the team can mold, manage, and market. That's what they see in Shadur Sanders. That's what they've been preparing for behind the scenes. And that's why Dillon Gabriel's role is shrinking by the day. This is how it happens in the NFL. Quietly, strategically. The game isn't always won on the field. Sometimes it's won in the press room, in the film room, in the boardroom. And by the time the public sees the move, it's already done. So when the Browns do make the switch, and they won't frame it as a benching. They'll frame it as turning the page, as building for the future, as doing what's best for the team. But those of us paying attention will know the truth. This didn't start when Gabriel threw an interception. It started when Shadur's name quietly became the one the Browns started protecting. It started when the team stopped defending Gabriel's inconsistencies and started praising Shadur's preparation. It started the moment Jimmy Haslam and his front office decided that this season wasn't about salvaging the present. It was about securing the future. So don't be surprised when it happens. Because it's not just over for Dillon Gabriel. It's already begun for Shadur Sanders. The Cleveland Browns aren't waiting for disaster. They're not stumbling into a quarterback controversy. They're preparing for a transition they've already decided on. And the longer Dillon Gabriel hangs on to the starting job, the more obvious it becomes that his time isn't being measured in weeks or wins, but in moments. Because once the franchise starts laying the foundation for your replacement, your only job is to delay the inevitable. And right now, that foundation has a name, Shadur Sanders. This isn't just about stats. It's not even about quarterback mechanics or scheme fit. This is about belief. Belief from the front office. Belief from the coaching staff. Belief from the people behind the scenes who started shaping Shadur's narrative like a PR campaign before he's even taken over the huddle. And you can feel it. The media's tone has shifted. At first, Shadur was framed as a developmental prospect, someone with long-term potential, maybe a redshirt season kind of player, but that language is gone. Now it's about readiness, growth, timing. That's not accidental. That's directional. The Browns aren't evaluating who their quarterback might be. They're preparing everyone for who their quarterback will be. There's no real suspense in this storyline anymore. It's not a mystery unfolding. It's a scripted transition that's just waiting for the right cue. And everyone inside that building knows it. Coaches, teammates, PR staff. The energy is shifting, and it's shifting fast. It started with the leaks. You don't get insider reports about organizational strategy unless someone wants that info out there, especially in Cleveland, where the front office has made a sport out of protecting narrative control. The moment stories started dropping about Shadur being groomed for leadership and Gabriel being questioned under pressure, you could trace the fault lines. Haslam is steering this. He's a common thread. He's the one orchestrating the moves that don't show up on the depth chart, but tell you everything you need to know about where this team is headed. He's not pushing for an impulsive switch. He's building a system that makes it feel inevitable, seamless, smart, because that's the goal. You don't just make a quarterback switch, you justify it. You shape the context around it. So when it happens, there's no chaos, no backlash, no what we doing, panic from fans or media. That's why Dillon Gabriel hasn't been benched yet. The team isn't protecting him. They're preparing to replace him strategically. If Gabriel had completely imploded, they had been forced to act before the narrative was ready. But instead, his performances have been just shaky enough, just underwhelming enough, to feed the storyline they're building. A few bad decisions, a few missed opportunities, and a whole lot of public doubt. That's the currency Shedeur is being traded in right now. Not touchdowns, not reps, narrative momentum. And Shedeur doesn't have to do much to win the battle. He just has to exist in a better story than the one Gabriel stuck in. That story is being written as we speak. Shedeur is a quarterback with upside, the one the franchise sees as the future. He's being talked about in glowing terms, even if they're still couched in cautious optimism. He's progressing. He's handling things well. He's got a great mind for the game. That's how you preload confidence. You build the image before the stats ever show up. Meanwhile, Gabriel is being slowly left out of the conversation. After that last loss, no rallying cries of support. No grand statements from the front office. Just silence. And when the Browns go quiet, that's when the moves are already being made. There's something deeply clinical about how this is unfolding. The Browns are walking Gabriel to the edge, not by force, but by framing. Every moment he doesn't inspire belief becomes another moment Shedeur doesn't have to prove anything. That's the genius of this play. Shedeur doesn't need to take the job by force. He just has to stand still while Gabriel fumbles through his. And it's working. Insiders have already started floating the possibility that Shedeur could be elevated sooner than expected, that the Browns are evaluating not just him, but the supporting pieces that would need to be in place if they do make the switch. That includes backup quarterback scenarios, locker room messaging, media rollout. That's not quarterback competition. That's succession planning. This is the kind of power move you make when you believe you found your guy. The Browns haven't always been this disciplined. They've rushed decisions, misread situations, backed the wrong players for the wrong reasons. But this is different. This is patient, calculated, ruthless but strategic. And it tells you everything about what they think Shedeur can be. He's not just a quarterback. He's a quarterback investment, a future face, a player they believe they can build a brand around, not just a playbook. So the question now is no longer about performance. It's about pacing. How long can Gabriel hold off the inevitable? Can he put together a stretch of games that disrupts the script? Can he shift the energy back in his favor? Can he prove to the team that there's still a reason to believe? Because if he can't, then Shedeur doesn't need to wait. The Browns will make the move the moment they feel the story has caught up with reality. Not when it's forced, when it's ready. That's the difference between a reaction and a plan. And this is very much a plan. Shedeur Sanders is coming. Maybe not this week. Maybe not next. But soon. And not because the Browns are desperate, but because they're deliberate. And when the move happens, the team will say all the right things. They'll thank Gabriel. They'll talk about what he brought to the locker room. They'll frame it as what gives us the best chance to win. They'll praise Shedeur's progress, maturity, vision. But don't be fooled. This decision wasn't made overnight. It's been unfolding for weeks. Quietly, carefully, relentlessly. And it's almost complete. Drop your take in the comments. Should the Browns pull the trigger on Shedeur now? Or give Gabriel one more chance to turn around? And if you want more unfiltered breakdowns of the NFL's boldest moves, quietest coups, and most calculated quarterback power shifts, don't forget to subscribe. Because in Cleveland, the future isn't just knocking. It's already in the building.